Oh, that's why the worlds are big, because the world is called Colossal Classics.
Hello, and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sint,
I'm Exin.
and we are not talking about the Chronicles of Narnia, but continuing our discussion of Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen while we play through Mario Adventure. We kind of got sidetracked last time, but we're back on topic now. Granted, that topic is everything we kind of wanted to talk about that we didn't think would fit into its own episode.
Yep. We are wrapping it up.
So is the level.
Let's say I appear to be running out of time. How much is... Ah!
Well, I have good news and bad news. Time is not a concern anymore.
As I was saying, where would you like to begin with this, bit of wrap-up?
Not Narnia?
Well,
the
yes.
first thing we have listed on the notes is, why would you give a solid gold carriage to someone who's going out into an bandit-infested forest?
Oh, yes. And why do you have a bandit problem in your country that is so big that the bandits have their own castle?
Well, clearly they've taken over the medieval lands version of Congress, and therefore the bandits have been thoroughly protected from royal enforcement. I'm sorry.
It hurts, but it's not wrong.
I mean, it is wrong because we have no evidence that Gerda's country even has a parliament. So...
Honestly, we have no idea what her country is or how it functions other than it has royalty.
At least it's not run by an inconsistent lion.
I mean... You take what you can get at this point.
But yeah, so there's a lot of emphasis given to how the princess wants someone to talk to who can match her in wit and who can take her seriously, and just she's a very intelligent person. And she marries the prince who comes to see her because he does say that he wants to listen to her wisdom too. So we have intelligent royalty. It's basically their primary character trait. But apparently that doesn't extend to maybe we could not send her into like something that basically has a neon "please rob me shinies within" sign on top of it.
Yeah. They
And,
put her out into this forest full of bandits.
Like, I do want to offer them a modicum of credit because I recall that they sent a guard with her, but the bandits slaughtered them. So they did at least acknowledge that she's going to need some protection. It just didn't work.
Yeah, but, I mean... Yes, but also... They sent her in a solid gold carriage.
I know! I'm not giving full credit, I'm giving partial credit. It's very much a Comic Sans you tried star. It was still a dumb move. They should have been smart enough to know better because the story told us like 16 times that they were smart enough to know better. But they did it anyway. But they did at least, you know, try to mitigate some of the bad decision-making. It didn't work, but there was an attempt.
Put that on your Comic Sans star.
I think there's one for that too, yeah.
There is, yes. I'll put it in post.
I honestly really should just get a nice roll of "You Tried" stickers, but it probably wouldn't work because most of my school stuff is electronic.
In a lot of ways, that makes it easier. You can just give them a GIF.
I mean, this time of year, it's a Christmas gift. Hey! That's the star you put on top of the Charlie Brown tree.
Ha!
I would also say that Kai probably falls into our high intelligence, low wisdom category because, well,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't think it's just the mirror alone that makes him fairly intelligent and logical, but he is also not making the best of all possible decisions.
I would agree with that.
But that kind of brings us into the topic that you had suggested that we weren't sure was stand on its own. And you said we'd get to it later.
Yeah. There's an argument that can be made that this entire story is a big metaphor for puberty / growing up and losing your childhood innocence.
Does that mean that Kai is not allowed to go to Narnia either, or does he get a pass because he's a boy?
I would say that this means he doesn't get to go to Narnia.
Yeah, but none of the boy Pevensies got kicked out of Narnia when they got older, just Susan.
I'm not... what's his face?
Lewis?
Lewis, and I'm not Gaiman. So... I'm not sure what you want me to say.
I'm just pointing it out.
I'm sure there's a commentary that can be made about something along the lines of girls growing up and doing girl things is less acceptable than boys growing up and doing boys things. But again, we're not talking about Narnia, and this is getting us
Yeah, we're not talking about Wish.com, Jesus Simba. Or SimbaWish.com Aslan, because I remember Simba being a really terrible king in the Lion King sequels.
I think that was less because he was cheap version of Aslan, and more because they based all of the Lion King movies off of various Shakespeare stuff, and Shakespeare has a lot of bad kings.
I'm going to argue semantics on that. Lion King 1.5 was not based on a Shakespeare play, it was based on a Tom Stoppard adaptation of a Shakespeare play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which focuses on the side characters in Hamlet, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and gets to see what they're up to while Simba is off doing Hamlet stuff.
It's still based on a extrapolation from a Hamlet, from a Shakespeare property.
I'm just saying Tom Stoppard is not the same person as William Shakespeare.
No, but he's doing a riff on Shakespeare, and Disney was doing a riff on... All Hail was doing a riff on his riff.
Okay, can we just say that authoritarian lions are bad?
Yes.
It doesn't seem to work out very well, is what I'm saying.
Also, if you look at real-life lion prides, they don't actually work like that.
Okay, we're going to have to do Hamlet at some point so we can ruin the Lion King, but we should probably get back to talking about the Snow Queen.
The actual point I was trying to get to when I originally proposed this last little bit was that it's very easy to read a lot of this as Kai growing into his teenage / puberty years and deciding that he's too old and too cool for all the stuff that he and Gerda used to do together. So he's just going to be a mean jerk who spends all his time reading and doing math. Because those are the kinds of things that grown-up boys do instead of spending their time with little girls.
You know who else did math to cope with the angst?
Who?
Victor Frankenstein. He couldn't stand to look at science anymore, so he did math.
I remember.
And just couldn't... Yeah. But, so I'm just saying, role models, maybe not the best. Maybe don't run into the mushroom. but I don't know if I agree with that, because, like, traditionally, and honestly, science today backs this up, people, just basic observation, girls hit puberty first. And as someone who works in a 7 to 12, so junior, senior high school, and girls, when they hit puberty, can be just as bad as the boys. So I'm not sure that the story holds up to a metaphor for puberty, not if you're going to have Gerda completely and utterly bypass it while Kai goes through it, unless Kai is considerably old, at least a couple years older than her, which the story does not seem to imply.
I was going to blame it on the author being a man who is more interested in portraying Gerda as pure and kind, and as an example of what girls should be. So I think he just ignored that bit.
Maybe, don't know.
I mean,
but
I
yeah,
can't say because
I probably would not go to Hans Christian Andersen for a portrait of well-adjusted childhood.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, speaking of, 'tis the season to throw snowballs at the angels who are there just to sing over the little match girl rather than helping her.
Ah, yes. We already have a comment in our replies about that.
Oh, we do?
in one of the earlier episodes. Yeah, I think the first one. Somebody mentioned they like this story. They do not like many of Andersen's other stories, particularly Match Girl.
I don't think anybody likes the little match girl. Like, it is, like, depression incarnate, and it's literally it is the epitome of the Orphan-Crushing Machine.
I think Sophie agrees.
Yeah, so to clarify what I mean by the Orphan-Crushing Machine, there's been a long-running kind of meme going around of how come every human interest story about look at how we did this thing is basically just acknowledging that there's this horrific system in place that is impossible for anybody to make a decent life on, but rather than do something about turning off the machine that is crushing all the orphans, we just celebrate people, you know, pulling orphans out of the way rather than turning off the orphan-crushing machine. So rather than any systemic fix that would make a discernible difference to those who actually need the help, it's just feel-good, pat yourself on the back things. It's like the little kid throwing starfish into the ocean. It matters to this one. Like, yeah, but what if we, you know, did something that wouldn't leave them stranded on the beach at low tide all the time? I don't know, like, fix the system rather than putting the onus on the individual to change something that is far bigger than, like, anyone without, like, a small nation's GDP worth of personal wealth.
Yeah, the big example I've usually seen is, like, oh, this kid paid off his entire class's lunch debts, and I'm like, and people are like, why are children being saddled with debt to have lunch?
Or, student does a lemonade stand to help pay for his new prosthetic.
Or buy his own wheelchair because insurance denied them.
Yeah, so... yeah.
I don't like this level.
But yeah, Hans Christian Andersen really, really likes the human interest story about the Orphan-Crushing Machine, but doesn't seem inclined to turn it off. And yeah, we're not doing the little match girl right now, or probably ever, because we'd probably get demonetized for me saying the F word over and over again, repeatedly, because I cannot stand that story. I don't have anything unique to say about it that's not just capitalism kills people. And we've already ripped it apart when we did Hogfather. So I'm just gonna say it right now: the Little Match Girl sucks. And yeah, I think the Snow Queen might be his most optimistic work, which is really impressive when you consider all the stuff we have found. That's are you sure you want to say this about it?
The other thing you could possibly read out of Kai's situation is that he's got some kind of neurodivergent trait. Because if you wanted to, you could read Kai's complete disassociation with the world and his obsession with the parts of the world that make sense to him because the numbers add up as some kind of neurodivergent hyperfocus. He would be far from the first neurodivergent person who got really hooked on math because numbers make sense when people don't.
Possibly, and I would say that definitely, like, the age that puberty would start is when you definitely start seeing a lot of more divergence between those who are neurodivergent but usually can mask pretty well and everybody else. Because that's also when you start getting into more differentiated classes. Like, that's when you have, like, the advanced math rather than the everybody has the same math class in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. And
like, that's when you start getting tracked into, like, okay, you have done well in your 8th grade science class, so we think you're ready to take biology, which is going to be a little bit harder than physical science. At least that's how it is in most of the districts I've been in.
that's
Whereas,
about
like,
how it was where I was
yeah,
as
like,
well.
English might be differentiated, but it really depends on how well staffed the school is, because, like, the one I'm at now, like, we don't have the personnel to have, like, the on-level versus honors advanced placement English class sort of thing.
Yeah. When I was in elementary school, we had the Gifted and Talented Club, which you can look up no shortage of weird memes about people who used to be in that and now are mostly defined by a troubling level of depression and perfectionism.
Yeah, so I moved at a really weird time in high school, so I think I missed, like, where you'd be assessed for that, because, like, I definitely fall into that meme category, but was never given the option for Gifted and Talented.
I was. I got pulled out of a class in 4th grade, completely out of nowhere, by a teacher I didn't recognize, and told that every Tuesday and Thursday from that point on, instead of being in class at a certain time, I think in my case it was right after lunch, instead of going back to the classroom after lunch, I would go to a small school bus that had been converted into a classroom parked on the edge of the campus.
Okay, I do actually remember stuff like this. Like, I went to a Catholic elementary school, and it was like 2nd or 3rd grade that I got pulled into, like, a special reading group just to do extra reading stuff because I needed something else to do, apparently. But, like, when I went to public school in 9th grade, like, we ended up moving mid-year, and there was a lot of shuffling, so it just never got carried over with my records or something.
Or the new school didn't consider your records sufficiently high enough to qualify for their system or whatever, because it's always different from school to school.
Could be. I'm not going to toot my own horn here. I'm not going to toot my own horn about it, but I am going to say that I'm pretty sure I would have qualified having met other people in that program.
I mean, that's completely fair.
The point is, I still have the crushing sense of a lack of fulfillment with my life based on all the expectations that I should have been able to meet, and I do definitely have anxiety and depression as a result of it. So, yeah, I understand the Gifted and Talented meme. You mean sad adult? Yes, we do.
Yep. I ended up falling out of the advanced program in high school because I started running into things that I couldn't just finish in a single setting just by looking at them. This level.
Yeah, I could definitely see
these stupid cannonballs.
I can definitely see Kai's inability to find eternity in the little puzzles as a form of hyperfixation. And the fact that it's just one of those really obnoxious puzzles that are hard to solve.
Yep. And he's so absolutely focused on this particular task that he drowns out the rest of the world. And in the story, we have the reason being the combination of the frozen shards and the kiss of the Ice Queen. But obviously, taking a more realistic interpretation to it, it could very much just be, I'm working on my thing, don't bother me. I'm ignoring the world while I work on my thing. Because I've definitely been in that phase, where I'm in the middle of some project or some task or something, and dead to the world around me.
You know who else has been in that phase?
Besides you?
The Joker. Harley comes up and go away, I'm drawing triangles. Hamill was best Joker.
He was. I've been rewatching that show recently. I could do just as much commentary on that show as I have been on these books.
Yeah, well, we're not superhero and crit. We're literary criticism and crit.
I'm aware.
No, I'm sure that there's like a Batman comic where they use crit as a sound effect because, come on, statistically there should be.
I'd be very surprised if not.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say on the Snow Queen. I think we've kind of exhausted
I was about to
it.
say, I think we covered all the straggling little bits that we never got to make into full episodes, and little comments that we wanted to make along the way. And I'm really tired of getting hit by these stupid cannonballs.
So yeah, closing thoughts on Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen.
I thought it was a good story. It definitely had some bits that were like, what? But... And I really have to agree with your analysis that it's probably one of Andersen's most positive stories. Less depressing. Almost everybody gets a happy ending. Even the minor characters.
So I'm trying to think of the other ones that he's responsible. Okay, Ugly Duckling is fairly happy after a while. Princess and the Pea is okay. I didn't know that was him. I didn't know he had the Emperor's New Clothes. Of course, Thumbelina is him, and I don't want to talk about Thumbelina because the movie sucks.
I was about to say, I've never read or heard the original story, so I don't know how faithful the movie was to it.
Oh, neither. Like, I haven't seen his versions either. I was just looking up, like, hey, if I'm going to say it's one of his more optimistic works, I should probably say something about that. Because the only ones I knew of were, like, The Little Mermaid and The Little Match Girl. I didn't know he had done the other ones, but yeah, Ugly Duckling seems very Andersen in hindsight. Wishful thinking, I think.
Yeah.
Which sounds mean to say, but knowing what I do about him from various stuff we've read, and yeah, I can absolutely see him writing Ugly Duckling as hoping it'll turn out that way.
I'm not familiar enough with his history to know what you mean by that.
I'm sure we'll get to one of his stories one day, but until then...
See y'all next time.